Hi, everyone. My name is Susie Peterson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the other co-manager for the Backyard Habitat Certification Program. So at this point, you would have already met Megan Vandemart at Portland Audubon, and I'm the other manager. I'm with Columbia Land Trust. And so I'm going to share a little bit about myself, my role in backyard habitat, and mostly about Columbia Land Trust. So you can know a little bit more about the other organization that's managing the program. So let's see, I've been with Backyard Habitat and Columbia Land Trust for about 4.5 years now. And it's been a really exciting journey. I've been part of the growth of the program into new counties, and it's been a lot of fun. My role as a co-manager is really working on kind of the first half of the participant experience. So for example, when someone enrolls in the property and they get their site visit, I kind of manage a lot of the things around the site visits, what kind of resources they get, and I manage the technicians that go out and do the site visits. I also do a lot of the financial management as well. So processing invoices and doing a lot of the grant reporting and such. So it's a really fun job. I feel extremely fortunate to have it. And I feel even more fortunate to be able to work with really great people, including our technicians and our volunteers. So I have a huge appreciation for volunteers. So thank you so much for being here, and just know that you're really appreciated. Let's see, I've been a program participant since 2011, when my husband and I were lucky enough to buy our first house. And it was a lot of lawn at that time. So I've spent about 10 years converting it into a habitat. And it's been really fun. We've seen a huge increase in the diversity of birds visiting our yards. We also host mason bees, so those are really fun to watch. And just being able to plant different plants and get to know different plants has been a lot of fun too. We have a lot of squirrels as well, so there's joy and challenges that come along with that. But overall, overall, it just brings us a lot of joy to see the amount of life in our garden, as opposed to what it was when we had just lawn. So I'm certainly very, pro backyard habitat. I'm guessing you are too. And I think that what we're doing really does make a difference. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen, because I have a presentation here about Columbia Land Trust. Oops, let me go to the top here. Because I want to share with you the work that the Land Trust does. What we do in backyard habitat ties in very directly with it. But Columbia Land Trust, what land trusts do in general, just so you kind of have a sense for that, is conserve large-ish parcels of land that are crucial for wildlife habitat. So in our region, we have a lot of habitat that relies on large swaths of land. So for example, plant species that are under threat, elk that migrate through, birds that migrate through, beavers, and lots of other animals. And so by doing this, we are not only creating habitat for wildlife, but we're also helping to keep water clean and air clean and so forth. So the Land Trust works primarily along the Columbia River, about 50 miles to 100 miles north of the Columbia River and 50 to 100 miles south of the Columbia River. And we have 3 different satellite offices, or we have a main office in Vancouver, and then we have 3 additional satellite offices, one in Astoria, one in Portland, and one in Hood River. The mission of the Land Trust is to conserve and care for the vital lands, waters, and wildlife of the Columbia River region through sound science and through strong relationships. This is a photo of our staff. This was taken a few years ago now, so some faces have changed. But what you're seeing here are several teams. We have a development team that does fundraising. We have our management team. And then we have our land protection team, which is the team that goes out and looks for high habitat value lands that we can take care of. And then there's the stewardship team. They're the ones who go out and actually implement the restoration work. So they remove weeds, they plant native plants, they create habitat in loads of ways. And so this is our team. We're currently conserving and caring for about 44,000 acres. And for those who kind of have a hard time visually thinking about what an acre is, that's about 33,000 football fields. So it's quite a large area. This beautiful photo right here is a photo of balsam root and lupin in an area near the Dalles on just a little bit past Hood River. This is one of our conserved properties. And so this is a map of the area that the Land Trust works in. And so what you can see here is this little dotted line circles the overall area that we work in. And then we've got our different ecoregion priority areas. So for these gray areas out here along the coast, within this coast ecoregion, those gray areas are really high habitat areas that we're kind of focusing on. And then the little red dots are the actual projects that we take care of. And so you can see we've got different ones. So here's the Columbia River kind of winds down here through our area and then comes out here to Hood River, the Dalles and beyond. And so you can see we've got little properties kind of pinpointed throughout this whole area. And then there's backyard habitat. We've got backyard habitat is the little diagonal line that runs through this area that's in Portland and the Vancouver area. It looks like they're missing the dash lines in the Vancouver area. We need to add that in because we're in Clark County now. But this gives you a sense of where we're working. And ecoregions are really interesting. So I wanted to take a minute to talk a little bit about that. This is basically the same area as this red dotted area on this map. And so within this area that the Land Trust works in, there are 5 different ecoregions. We've got the coast ecoregion, the Willamette Valley and Puget Trough ecoregion, the West Cascades, East Cascades, and Columbia Plateau. And each of these have different geographies. Some of them are very close to water with lots of wetlands, lots of large evergreen trees like on the Coast Range. In the Willamette Valley, and Puget Trough, we're literally in a valley. We've got the Coast Range over here and the mountains come down and kind of level out. So we're in that valley between the coast and the mountains. And we have our own unique plants and animals that live in this area. Then there's the West Cascades, which includes the 3 mountains, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, and Mount Hood. And this is, mostly made up of lots of evergreen trees and kind of slopes down. This area kind of slopes down from those mountains. Then we've got the East Cascades, which is on the other side of the mountains, and it's much drier out there. And so, lots of oak habitat. They do well in those dry areas. Lots of grasslands, things like that. So very different from where we are here in the valley. And then even beyond East Cascades, there's the Columbia Plateau, and that's even drier than the East Cascades. So very different ecologies in these different areas. And again, the little yellow areas here are the lands that we are caring for. This is just kind of a breakdown of those ecoregions again. I won't go into them in detail, but you can find this on the Land Trust website if you're interested. but it is really cool. It does a really good job of explaining like the different ecologies of the areas, the different challenges, and then the strategies that we're taking to really address those challenges. So that was a little bit about where the Land Trust works, a bit about why we do the work. There are a lot of reasons why we do this work. Part of it is species diversity. Oh, keep doing that. Species diversity. We have historically had a very diverse populations of animals and plants that live in these ecoregions. And that has really been hindered by the growth of people in this area. And we can do a better job of taking care of the land. And that's really what we want to do. We want to make sure that, you know, we're doing what we can to keep as many of the species of plants and animals around. That benefits the plants and the animals. It also benefits people. We need, you know, people rely on pollinators, for example, to pollinate our food crops. So if we don't have a diversity of pollinators like bees and hummingbirds and other pollinators, it's going to be really hard for us to grow the food that we need. We also do it for clean air, clean water, clean soils, for habitat, just for the sake of respecting and valuing the plants and animals that live around us. And of course, we do it for people as well. All of this is connected. How people treat the land has a direct impact on how people are able to thrive and be healthy. So it's all connected, and we really acknowledge that and work to do what we can to take care of the land. So where does backyard habitat come into play in all this? Well, the Backyard Habitat Program really takes that larger scale work that the Land Trust is doing, and it brings it down to a neighborhood scale. So for instance, the same things that our stewardship staff are doing out on these lands, such as removing weeds, planting native plants, working with the hydrology, working with the water that's there, and you know, figuring out how to keep it clean and how to help it move through the landscape naturally, as well as creating wildlife habitat. Those are all things that we do, that we talk to our program participants about in Backyard Habitat. And so it's really just kind of taking that larger model and bringing it down to a level where individual people who live in neighborhoods can implement those same things. So the benefits of doing this is that it connects people to nature. It extends our restoration work. So now, instead of just working on these larger lands, we're able to create corridors, wildlife corridors, and keep water clean in urban and suburban areas. It inspires people to care. And of course, it helps with climate change resistance and resiliency. And so it's a really impactful program, very valued by the Land Trust, and it's just really neat to be part of it. So to think of it from a participant perspective, I wanted to share one story. A few years back, we had one of our participants go on a Land Trust tour. These are tours that the Land Trust hosts, where they take groups of people out to visit some of the lands that we're caring for. And this property is called the Four Sisters property. It's in the Gorge. And so the participant came out here. He fell in love with the balsam root and the lupin, and really wanted to try to recreate that in his backyard. So when he got home, he realized, well, I can't grow balsam root. It's not the right ecology, but I can grow other things that are similar. So instead of balsam root and lupin, he grew monkey flower and camas, which you can see here. So this is his actual backyard and what he planted when it grew in. And so this is just a great example of the power of taking those larger models and implementing them on a smaller scale. So that's a brief snippet about the land trust. One really important component that I also wanted to share was some of our equity work. You know, we really want to acknowledge the past and where the conservation movement is coming from and still is in many ways, because that will allow us to do better in the future. And so acknowledging the past means that we recognize that exclusion and displacement are woven into the history of the conservation movement. And the foundation of conservation work, which is land ownership, is a vehicle through which institutional racism consolidates power and furthers inequity. So we have the system that we have to work within, right? Land ownership is just the system the only system we have to work in right now. But by acknowledging the harm that creates, we're able to step outside the box and kind of see how we can work with that system or around that system. We also acknowledge the present. Today, communities of color and underserved communities are disproportionately burdened by the adverse impacts of land use and environmental policy decisions. So we have a responsibility to act on that and to do better. And we want to acknowledge the future. We have really daunting challenges facing our planet, facing our people, wildlife, and plants. You know, our environment, facing these environmental challenges will require new ideas, collaboration, and unique perspectives. A more diverse and inclusive conservation movement, it will be a stronger, more innovative movement. So our line item commitments is actually much longer than this. I'm kind of summarizing them here, but we are working to foster an inclusive environment, both in our work and, you know, at the Land Trust office, but also in the larger conservation movement. We're working to apply an equity lens to all of our work and to remove barriers to access, specifically access to conservation jobs, which historically has not been diverse and still is not diverse. We want to engage local communities of color in decision-making. We are trying our best to have inclusive communication and to interrupt oppression when we see it. Supporting policies benefiting communities of color. And last, but definitely not least, growing the diversity of our staff and board. So we have different projects, different programs that are working on these things. It's going to take a long time for us to meet our goals. This work does not move quickly, but it's really important that we do it. All right, so because I'm recording this, I obviously can't take any questions from those who are watching this video, but I did want to mention that we will have 2 live question and answer sessions in April, where you'll have a chance to ask any questions. And so if you have questions about Columbia Land Trust, how the work interacts with backyard habitat, or any of my experiences or anything like that, feel free to bring those with you to those April live sessions, and we're happy to answer them. And then if you're interested in learning more about Columbia Land Trust, feel free to check out our website, columbialandtrust.org. You can see our news there. You can read about the various projects that we're working on and upcoming events. We sometimes have live webinars about different animals or plants in the area. Also information about tours, which we haven't been able to do during the pandemic, but hopefully we'll be able to do those soon. And really, I just want to thank you on behalf of Columbia Land Trust for being here, for being interested in backyard habitat, for engaging with us, and for watching these videos. And I just really look forward to working with you all more in the future. Thank you.